Well, hello, everybody. How's everybody's Sunday going? I am so hot. I have turned my house into an ice box, and now I'm freezing and I'm running around in a sweater. So I can't make up my mind whether I'm hot or cold around here. It's pretty funny. You go outside and you just about die of heat stroke, and then you come in the house and you can't seem to find warmth. So I can't seem to find any happy medium with this stuff. It's crazy. I'm supposed to be out working, and I can't do that anymore because of my cardboard allergy, which is awesome. And so I'm just trying to find other things to do, which means you actually might have me on here a little bit more if this continues. I have some other things going on though. I've got a website I'm creating called Streets Everywhere. It's going to be a new Craigslist website. It's kind of like Craigslist. I'm not a new Craigslist. It's going to be like that. I got so frustrated with Craigslist and the flagging. I mean, I can't even put a treadmill up there without them flagging it. It's just absolutely insane. I can't stand it. So I thought, you know what? It irked me to the point where I just created my own. So I'm in the process of creating this site. It's going to have auctions on it like eBay, bid for assets, like where they do real estate auctions. It's going to have auto auctions and other miscellaneous auctions like jewelry and stuff like that. I'm going to have that on there. I'm going to have the weather, the time, the date. I'm going to try for an option to play music while you're on it. It's going to be like an all around everything, type of site. Going to have the things for sale, like all the stuff that's on, you find on Craigslist is going to be on there. I'm going to have stock market stuff on there. I'm going to have a thing for dating. The dating thing I made was pretty cool. It's got, like, I have marriage minded date. I've got paranormal date. I've got foreigner date. I've got gaming date. I've got artist date. It's really cool. Then I've got a section on there for the artist corner, which is going to be for people to showcase their art and their talents, like dance or music or songwriting or painting, anything like that, anything that's artsy, pottery. I mean, you name it. I'm going to have that on there, and I have a site on there, a section on there for paranormal. So we can put up paranormal stories and link our podcast to it. It's going to be really cool stuff. So I'm working on this enormous site, and I have it partly done, and I am, like I said, still working on it. So I've got a little school bus at the top, because that kind of that just it just made me. I have a little yellow bus, and it's my ice cream bus, and it just it inspired me to put that up there. So it's going to be cute. So look for that at some point. I'm going to have it. Hopefully, it's going to be streetseverywhere.org, but it might be Streets Everywhere something else. I'm not sure yet, so I have to see if I'm going to go with that one or not. But I'll let you know when it comes out, and I'm hoping it's very soon because I'm getting tired of waiting. The company I have that I hired for me is really lollygagging, so I'm not sure if that one's going to work out totally, so I might have to go with somebody else. So, if anybody has any stories, please send them my way. If anybody knows of any really good allergists that treat chemical allergies, please let me know. And if anybody knows a really good website builder, also let me know that in case I need somebody that's really honest. I was just thinking today how much I love the podcasters. I was on sites listening to different podcasters, which I do. I'm very supportive with other podcasters in the supernatural and the spiritual and the paranormal and the cryptid world, especially because that's like my my love, my interest. And I just love these guys. I love all the hard work they put into this. You guys just, I mean, if you do podcasting, the work you put into it. I mean, there's so much stuff you do, like editing, and there's just a lot. Like today I spent hours writing down things I had to. When people send you stories, you have to edit them and rewrite them. And today I did them by hand because my printer's down, and I'm working on some limited stuff here. And I thought, well, the heck with it. I'm just going to do it by hand real quick. So now I'm hoping, as I'm reading things to you, that I can actually read my own handwriting, because at times it gets pretty sloppy. But these podcasters are amazing. I mean, I love David Paulides. I love Jeff from Jeff Nadolny's Dogmen Encounters. I love Vic Cundiff from Dogmen Encounters. I love Wes and Woody from the Sasquatch Chronicles. I love Cam from Dixie Cryptid. There's a bunch. There's Steve from How to Hunt. Something I always forget that one. I keep telling you guys I'm going to tell you what that is, and I keep forgetting to look up. I see it all the time. I don't know the exact title, but it's something like How to Hunt. He's awesome, and these guys are amazing. And I'm telling you guys, if you can listen to some of these stories, you need to, because it's just amazing. On this week, there was a girl who I actually contacted, and we've been talking. Robin. I'm not going to give her last name. She literally lives around Bigfoot. She literally lives has always had encounters since she was a kid. And she is just amazing. The stories she tells, I told her, I said, after listening to her stories, and there's a lot of them, I said, Robin, I really feel that you're part of them. I feel that she's had alien abductions and since she was 3. And I feel that and these dogmen and these Bigfoot watch her like a hawk, like they like protect her and they love her, it seems, and they're around her ever since she's been born. And I feel like she's linked to them. I feel like she's part of there's a rumor that the aliens actually abduct people and they reproduce with humans, and I feel that she's got something genetic in her that draws them to her, and that she's linked to them somehow genetically. And I don't think that she thinks that's too incredulous sounding from when I talk to her. I'm hoping to have her on the show. I'd love to have her on. You would not believe the stuff she talks about. The one story was, she talked about different things, like she would have open windows when she slept, and the Bigfoot would play with her hair at night. She knows their names. She speaks with them telepathically. She's known good and bad ones. She said there's good and bad just like there are with humans, which makes sense. She does not feel they're demons. She feels that they're an actual race of creatures, each of their own. The dogmen they patrol the forest and they protect it, and the Bigfoot they're a clan of people, and very protective with their young. And for some reason, they were really drawn to Robin and her family. She lived in Michigan, and then she's since moved to one of the Carolinas, either north or south. And the one story she had just cracked me up. She said that they're real protective with her, and I guess one night her TV broke, and she had to have a repairman come in to do something with her cable. And the kids were all upset. They said, Mom, what are we going to do? I mean, these guys are out in the forest. They're going to, they pound on her doors at night and her walls, and they just like to get her attention. And they like her to come out at 2 o'clock in the morning just to come out and be around them. And they pound on her walls outside unless she does. So there, it's like this little love affair she's got going on with these entities. And, so she said, she would take care of it. And the TV repairman was on his way, and gets there. He's in the house. And they start pounding on the walls outside. So, they're like in a panic thinking, oh my God, they're going to scare him away. So she goes outside to talk to them, and her house like borders the woods, and she goes out to the border, and she's like, listen, I really need you to stop, to calm down and let him repair my TV. My TV's broken, and I need you to really just let this happen. And so she said all got quiet, and they behaved themselves completely after she went out and spoke with them. And she gets in the house, and the repairman gets done, and he fixes everything, and he goes to leave, and he's leaving, and she says he gets in his car. She walks him out to his truck, and he gets in, and she said that as he was leaving, his whole truck gets pelted with rocks. Like this whole storm of rocks just let loose on this guy to kind of like be like, and stay out, So I just thought it was funny. I mean, some of these stories she told were just so cute and funny. And like I said, I mean, there's good and there's bad ones. So you have to understand that, she can't vouch for every one of them and say, yes, they're all good. She does believe that some of them are, hurting people. She says that she doesn't feel most of the abductions and the people that end up dead, she feels most of it is not Bigfoot. And the government official I spoke with, Victor, said the same thing. He said he feels it's alien abductions. And she told me she said, in general, when she was on her podcast, that there's things in the woods that she's seen that she knows are there that are so bad and so evil that we can't even believe what's actually out there. And I know of the one story that the one guy told where this wolf hunted him because his stepfather killed his parents, and this wolf spent her life. He felt hunting him. And when he grew up, It was like she gave up once he grew up. She wanted him when he was little because she wanted revenge on the stepfather. But then as he grew up, I think some kind of an attachment grew with her to him. And he was out in a field and he was standing there and he looked over and he saw her come up over the ridge. He was hunting and she was with another wolf and he knew it was her. He knew her markings and he was so scared because he thought, my God, she's going to kill me. She's got me dead on right here. There's no protection. And they're massive. These creatures are massive. I mean, a gun, not any gun is going to kill them, and you have to know where to shoot too, and you have to be a dead on shot for how fast they are. And she came up over the hill, and she looked at him, and I guess during the point when he saw her, he also spotted what he felt was a Wendigo. He said it was either a rake or not a rake. I'm sorry, it was something. It might have been a rake, but I think it was a Wendigo that he spotted, and he knew what it was. He knew instinctively, that it was really evil, and he knew from the folklore that what it was just by the looks of it, and it was like looking like it was going to attack him. It was coming towards him. And as this was happening, she comes up over the hill. He sees her and he's like, "Oh my God, between these two, I'm dead." And so what happened was she looked at him and she telepathically said, "We're not the ones you need to fear." And she lifted up her paw and she pointed at the Wendigo and she said, "That is." And she said, "We hunt them to protect you." And then apparently he collapsed and he fainted. He passed out. He woke up later and he said she was gone. It was nighttime when he woke up. She was gone, and so was her partner. And there was black blood just all over the field. So she felt that, or he felt that they had hunted this creature and killed it, and she left him alone. And he hightailed it back to his truck, and just he says he sees her every now and then, and that's that. But some of this stuff, like it's interesting to know, to try to decipher whether they're good or bad, and it's just a really crazy world we live in, guys. And the term folklore, we have to understand that folklore basically means stories that happen to people. Okay, these are stories that people eyewitness accounts of things that happen to people. That's what folklore means. So, for us to just discount things and not believe it, it's just pretty crazy. Robin also said she felt, I asked her, I said, "Do you think," apparently they revealed their DNA to her. She didn't tell me the DNA yet. I'd like to talk to her about that more. It might be a secret. She may not be able to tell me. But I asked her if they were Nephilim, and she said no. She said not everything that's bad comes from the underworld. But she said that they told her they weren't from the Nephilim like a lot of people believe, and they aren't demonic. So that kind of just blows my whole theory out of the water of what I've always thought. And if they're telling the truth, I mean, you have to also understand they could be lying to her or just revealing what they want her, to believe. But apparently the Bigfoot want it out. They want her to reveal to people, and they want everybody to know that they're there. The reason that they don't like cameras, she said, was because they have the same Indian belief that whenever you take a picture of them, it steals part of their soul. And the Indians believe this. And in fact, I was just telling my son about this today, and he didn't even know that. I said, "Oh yeah, I've known that for years, that every time you take a picture or video of somebody, especially a picture, it's supposed to take a little piece of your soul with it." And so that's why they so violently do not like their pictures taken. They do not want their pictures taken because of that belief. It has nothing to do with being afraid that they're being revealed. It has to do with having a piece of their soul being stolen. So they don't like it. Get a drink here. So these are just some things I'm talking about here. I had some things happen this week. This is probably going to be a long podcast. I might have to do a part 2 on this one. I'm hoping I don't. I was at the river with my daughter, and she decided to take us swimming at the river. So we went down to this river, and it's all lined with trees, and it's very foresty, and it's beautiful where we went. This is the same river that she took me to last year with my son Tristan and her fiance Paul. We went rafting for the first time with her. I'd been rafting when I was a kid, but I hadn't been rafting in years, and we're not in the best shape right now. Tristan and I have just been laying around too much, and we're not in the best shape. So we get down there last year, and this is kind of a funny story. So we get down to this river. The river's super high and really fast. And I look at Chandler. It was in April of all times. So it's not swimming weather yet. And I'm thinking she's nuts, you know. I'm looking at the river. I'm like, Chandler, you've got to be kidding me. I don't think this is good. We can't do this. And she's like, oh yeah, let's just go. You know, she's got this ultra sense of adventure, and I deep down I have that too. In fact, I want to meet Robin and meet the Dogman and the Bigfoot. That's my intentions are to go and try to, visit with them and see if I can, like just learn some stuff. I'd really love to do this. And so get down there and she talks me into rafting. So we get the raft out, and this is an inflatable raft. We get down, get into the river within the raft with Tristan, and he's neither of us have, we haven't, oared or done anything like that. I mean, like ever. And so we're completely out of shape, not ready for all this. The river's fast. So we're going along, and Chandler's in front of us with Paul, with their dog, Violet, with them, who's a wolf. And they're just laughing their butts off, and they're like trying to tell us how to row. We're like trying, but the current's got us so bad. And we get sucked in down into this part of the river, and she's like, you've got to, go this way. We're like, we can't. We're like, we can't get there. These oars are plastic. They're not strong. We get sucked into this tree. Literally, this tree we smash into a tree. The raft pops and deflates. We're like getting sucked into this water with this current. We get sucked underneath this part of the tree, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we're gonna die, And I'm just worried about Tristan. I'm so worried about him. I see his body go under, and then my body gets sucked under, and then I see him pop up, and I'm like, oh, thank God, But thank God we had this huge tree that fell across the lake. It fell across the river, but it was like from one end of the river across the river, fell. This is how tall this tree was. Landed and actually ended at the other side of the river. So it was a very large tree. It was really high up. So I'm like, what are we going to do? And Tristan's like, I don't know. And we're just hanging onto this tree for dear life. Our busted rafts floating down the river with our oars. I think I had one oar. I got one oar, and I was laughing. I thought, this is horrible. So I said, we have to climb this tree. So we have to climb up this tree, and it's really high up. It fell over the river, but it's high, So we're up there, and then we have to scale this tree. So we're like, he gets up there and I get up there, and we're looking at each other. We're like, now what? Because we're not going to get up there and walk across the tree because it's so big, and there's such a current that if we get, thrown into the river again, we could die, So it's like, so we start scaling across the tree with our crotches and legs. We're just like moving ourselves, sliding across 1 inch at a time until we get over to the side of the river. And then we get off the tree, and we're like so thankful we're there. And all of a sudden we're hit with a wall of mud. The whole embankment is super tall. Like you have to climb it's probably about 15 feet high. And the whole thing, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is cool. But then we start to try to get up it, and it's all mud. So we're scaling this wall of mud, and then we're sliding back down, going back up it, sliding back down. And we're just like, we're looking at the river and the tree, looking at this wall, and we're like, we are never getting out of here. We're so screwed. We're going to have to go back in this river and get out somehow. But somehow I had the thought to just dig our fingers way into it and our feet, and make almost like a rock climbing wall type thing, but only it was inverse. And I had to push Tristan's butt over the wall when he got up there, and then I had to figure out my own way to get up there, and we did. So this is that river. This is where we went swimming. So we get there, and I look over the river, and of course Chandler takes us to a cliff. It isn't just a beach, where you can go to and you can walk out and there's this nice beach or this really flat area. Nope. It's a wall of rock that you have to scale down that's super, super narrow. And I'm like looking, I'm in flip-flops, and the stone is sandy, so you could easily slip because flip-flops are so slippery. I'm looking at my daughter thinking, she is a nut, and I don't know how I let her get me into this stuff. So anyway, so that's what happened. So I'm at this river, and, everything's great. And after a while, I'm walking along after we get done, we get back, and I was ahead of them, and I walked up to where the car area was, and I walked up a little further, and I was by myself, and I was thinking, I can't believe I'm walking doing this alone, because this is like just the scenario that we're not supposed to be in. I have no weapon, I have no mace, I have no walking stick, I have no knife, I have no gun, no autolocator, nothing like that. I'm walking all by myself along this, wooded path by a water source. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm like, holy crap, I just realized that, I'm doing this, and the kids were still back of me because they wanted to stay swimming for a little bit. And so I get up there and I go a little bit away from the cars, and I landed by these two trees. And the two trees were really bizarre. The one tree had grown this almost limb into another tree. I had never seen anything like this, and I've grown up around trees my whole life. And I love trees, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, that is really strange looking. And then next to this tree, these two trees that are kind of joined together, there's another tree, and this tree has this sign. It's a road sign, literally inside of it. It looks like the tree grew a mouth, and it started to swallow the sign. And I can't explain it. I should take a picture of it and post it up. And it looked like this tree was eating a road sign. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. Like somebody took a hammer and just started really gradually hammering the sign into the tree, and the hammer didn't scar the sign at all. Like the sign was in perfect shape, no marks on it, like no banging, nothing like that. And it was literally inside of this tree. And it was crazy. There was just a little piece of it that stuck out, and it looked like the tree had a mouth, like the upper lip was over top of the sign. So it was really crazy. So I started thinking about some things. Hang on, let me get a drink here. I had remembered legends of walking trees and talking trees and people that have seen things with trees. Now, J.R. Tolkien called them the Ents, the tree Ents. But that was made up by J.R. Tolkien, that actual term, I believe. So I thought, well, you know what? My next podcast, I am going to talk about some of these stories that I know of. And here we go. This is going to be story number 1. Well, I'm going to tell you something first before I start into the story. There's traditions of most Indian tribes that have stories of the Stick Indians, who are extremely dangerous forest spirits that have the powers to paralyze, hypnotize, or lure people into the woods by making eerie or everyday sounds or mimicking voices to an uncanny replication. Like these spirits can sound exactly like your mother or anything. In fact, Robin actually told her boys that if with the Sasquatch they can do the same thing. And she said that she heard like a bullfrog in the dead of winter and knew it wasn't a bullfrog, and it was exactly a bullfrog sound. And she told her kids that all of her kids, that if they ever heard her calling them from the woods, not to ever go out. So this is how exact they are with replicating and mimicking. There are also legends of them being cannibals, meaning they eat people. This isn't so far-fetched, is it? There have always been tribes that existed with cannibalistic tendencies. There are even restaurants out west that I have heard of where they have like family members that die. Like somebody in a family will die, and they actually donate their dead body to this restaurant, and the restaurant cooks the body and prepares it, and the family or loved ones come in and they actually consume the body. This is out in California, and this is absolutely the truth, and they probably have them around other places in the world too. Cannibalism is actually becoming an in thing now. It's pretty disgusting, although they're choosing people that are already dead, but that is just absolutely disgusting. Some tribes claim these beings are shapeshifters who can transform into trees or rocks to hide in plain sight. And that's interesting after hearing of David Paulides talk about boulder fields and the link to disappearances. Their true form is unknown, for each tribe has a description of them, and none of them are good. It was said that the great Apache warrior Geronimo was able to transform himself into a boulder and other shapes. Okay, story 1. My best friend and I hunted in the same spot on his family's farm in Virginia. There was no access road. We had to drive through his field, his family's field, to reach that side of the forest because it was private land. We had several acres to hunt, and we loved that. The trip ended up being for nothing, though. The forest had been eerily empty of all life all day, not even a bird heard or seen. The sun was just setting as we headed back to the truck across the field. A fragrance in the air immediately drew my attention. I can't describe what it smelled like, only so intoxicating it curled my toes in pleasure and almost turned me on, as embarrassing as that is to say. There was a deep longing to it, and all I could think of, bear with me, I gotta turn my page here, was finding the source of the fragrance so I could be drawn near to it. The next thing I remember is hearing a loud boom so close to my ear it left my head ringing. Feeling as if I had just woken up from a deep sleep, I found myself walking out to the open field instead of back to my truck, as I was supposed to be. Why are we going the opposite way? I thought, as I reached down to pick up my fallen rifle, realizing it had been a bullet that had whizzed by my ear. That was close, I thought, as I was digesting this info, when a different smell hit my nose. It was the stench of rotten vegetation mixed in with rotten meat, this is just crazy, because so many people talk about this smell for all of these entities. It almost caused me to throw up. It was the most awful, overpowering smell. I scanned the area, trying to find the source. In the direction I had been heading, out to the field, I thought I saw tall farm machinery at first. Using my binoculars, I realized it was a large grayish-black tree. The rotten smell seemed to be emanating from it. The urge to flee for my life overcame me, and I had to repress it, because I saw my girl Carol, who hunts with me, still walking towards it. I knew this was really bad deep down in my bones. I ran up to her and tried to get her to turn around, but it was like she was in a trance. I had to slap her twice, hard across the face, to get her to snap out of it. We both took off running as fast as we could back to the truck and took off. As we were hightailing it out of there, I looked, and the tree was gone. That sent us into a full frenzy. I can imagine. You know in the movies when you see people panicking and dropping their keys because they're so scared? Well, it's true. I actually dropped my keys twice trying to get them into the ignition, and it didn't help with Carol screaming at the top of her lungs. Back at the house, Carol said, as we went over the incident, that she felt as if the scent was floating her towards it. She felt light and free and couldn't resist it, till she felt me slapping her. When she snapped out of it and saw the tree in the distance and got a whiff of the rotten smell, she said she knew her life was in terrible danger and just ran. We believed the smell was some sort of hypnotic lure that put us in a trance to come to it. My rifle slipping from my hands and discharging is what saved our lives. We shudder thinking what could have happened to us. What kind of predator is able to hypnotize with scent? We both agree it looked just like a tree. We shared what happened with our uncle, who told us there was folklore about walking, talking trees, and said over the years he had been missing many cattle. That's just unbelievable. Story 2. I lived in a townhouse in Maryland. It was my escape from the city with my backyard bordering the forest. With 2 dogs, it was perfect. Hang on a second. Give me a second here. Almost every day, I took my dogs for a walk in the woods. Late one night, as I was hanging out on my back patio with some friends, my dogs whined to be let out. My friends went with me as I took them out to the backyard area. We all suddenly noticed at the same time a tree that was not there before. It was about 50 feet away from my door, so there was no way we hadn't been able to see it before. My dogs went crazy. One of my friends had to help me hold them back because they were straining to get to the tree. That's odd for dogs. Usually they know and they kind of, back off. I couldn't describe this feeling that came over me as I looked at it. Something just wasn't right. I had this scary thought that the tree wanted my dogs, but dismissed it as crazy. Curious about the tree, one of my friends walked towards it. We all stared in utter shock as this huge tree started moving toward the forest. So stunned, we just stood there watching it as the dogs then yelped in fear and confusion. It wasn't fast, and its motion was almost fluid like an octopus. The lights from the other porches lit up the area enough to see it was light brown in color, and the bark looked smooth and rubbery. Its many leafless branches were very high up, we noticed, as we heard it go crashing its way through the forest. That's when the fear kicked in. 3 grown men knocking each other down to get into the house first. That was funny. So they were knocking each other over to get into the house first. Imagine that visual. Sounds crazy, but it left enough of an impression that I don't go near the woods anymore. This is so common when people they get in these encounters. It just completely traumatizes people. They just won't go near the woods anymore. And that is so sad because the woods are so beautiful, and it's such a shame that we're robbed of that after we have these encounters. It's really sad. I actually started walking again at night. I wasn't doing it for a long time, but I started doing it again, and I thought, you know what? If something gets me, it gets me. I don't care. I mean, I stay in town, but they're in town. In fact, I walk on the street. I had the encounter with the rake on, so that's pretty wild. But I'm at a point now. I just trust in God to take care of me. Okay, story 3. We used to sneak in fishing at our favorite spot in Southern California. It's a long walk to the lake we love the most. This was on a golf course. Me and my cousin and our friend were walking and goofing off as we made our way toward the lake. As soon as the lake came into sight, movement near it stopped me dead in my tracks. I swear what I'm telling you is true. On the other side of the lake, some of the trees... Wait, let me look at this real quick. On the other side of the lake, some of the trees were swaying hard as if it was really windy, but there was no wind. It actually took me a moment or two to see what was really going on. 8 to 10 of the trees were moving toward the lake as we were coming on. It looked as though we had startled them, as half went one way and half the other way before we got there, as if trying to clear out from that area. From the moonlight, we could see their silhouettes move. It really freaked us out, and we never fished that night. No one believed us when we told of our encounter. We tried staking the area out, but we never saw anything again. People think we made this up. Why would we make up a story of walking trees? It even sounds crazy to us, but it really happened. That's pretty wild. Okay, this is the last story for today. My wife and I went to metal detect in an area of upstate New York that we had hunted many times before. On site, we had discovered something that had not been there the previous day. There, in the middle of this forested area we knew of well, was suddenly a huge boulder easily the size of half of us. We knew we were in the right spot because we found the holes we had been digging out of and had left behind some bottles and a note we had left. The largest hole we dug was like 12 feet away from this giant boulder. That shouldn't be there. The boulder had a crack in the middle that ran from top to bottom and was wide enough to walk through. In the middle of the crack was a Y-shaped branch stuck in the ground, just like X marks the spot. We dug under that branch but found nothing. Came back a few days later with some friends who had also been out to the site before and showed them the boulder. They were in disbelief. We tried to investigate, but there were no large rocks anywhere or damaged trees that showed it rolled to the spot. No road for a truck to dump it off. If it had fallen from the sky, there should have been evidence of an impact, but there was none. It was a complete mystery. That is some of the stuff, boy, I'll tell you what. David Paulides talks a lot about boulder fields. And there's a lot of disappearances in boulder fields. And I know there was a story of a guy that walked into a boulder field, and he actually spotted little people, but they actually looked like elves. They looked just like elves, he said. And they were singing, and he interrupted their this musical thing that they had going on. And apparently the female elf stopped what they were doing. She reached down and grabbed something, and the person he was with, he said that she came over and hit the person with whatever she had, like a stick or something, and the person died. And he ran. He was running, and he got out of there, and they went back and retrieved his body later, and he was just classified as one of those unknown deaths. They never could find out what it was. He tried to tell them what it was, but they didn't believe him. They thought he was nuts. But that's another thing, and that was in a boulder field. So I don't know. I mean, this it just gets wilder and wilder, guys. Like, some of this stuff is nuts. I wanted to tell you a near-death experience, and I didn't know if I'd have time to, but I'm actually doing pretty good for time here. There was a man. He was a missionary, and he got called by God to go over to Afghanistan, to a place that another missionary had been sent. And the other missionary, he was a man of God. He went over to try to, get people to Christianity and testify about the Lord. And he was killed. They showed up at his house in the middle of the night. They knocked on his door. He opened it up, and they abducted him. They put a bag over his head. They took him off, and they executed him. And so this other guy knew of this, and he was supposed to be his replacement. He was supposed to go over and replace this guy, and he was pretty worried. He said, he couldn't believe God was calling him here. He was like, why would you call me here? I mean, this other guy got killed, and he just felt it was really weighing on him that this is where he had to go. And he heard God's voice and heard him telling him that this is where he wanted him to be. And he was trying to negotiate with God, and he wouldn't have it. He wasn't having it. He was assuring him that this was where he wanted to go, where he wanted him to go. So he packed his family up, and off they went. And he was in the house, and lo and behold, he gets a knock at the door one night, and they take him out, and they put a bag over his head. They take him off, and they, just put him in a room somewhere. And he's sitting there thinking he's dead. He's like, I'm dead. They're going to kill me, And later on, they took his the bag off of his head, and they started questioning him. And they said that they were told that there was 200 of them, of these Afghan soldiers that were part of ISIS. Okay, these are ISIS guys. There was 200 of them that all had the same dream. That they were shown a dream about Jesus, and they woke up, and when they started talking about this dream, they all realized they had the same dream, and they couldn't understand it. They were freaking out, and they were also put on their heart about, showed the killing of the guy that they killed, how it was wrong, and what they did, that they were gonna go to hell for this unless they repented and came to Jesus. So the reason they had abducted this other missionary was because they wanted him to interpret this dream and find out what they were supposed to do. And he ended up witnessing to 200 ISIS soldiers and saving them. They got saved because of a dream that all of them had about Jesus. It was an amazing story, and I thought, what a testimony it would be to people that are Muslim faith, that don't believe in Jesus. And I love that story. So there you have it. That is your special Sunday podcast for today. I'm going to finish my mango slushy, which I love, and think of some other things that I would like to write about. If you guys have any suggestions, anything that you would like to hear about, you can always let me know. Just remember my email address is inthedark2021@gmail.com. Just message me, write me in stories. I get stories all the time, and I love them. Some of them I have to edit so you can understand them, because I get people all around the world that send in stories that we speak different languages sometimes, or they try to speak English, and I have to kind of edit it. But that's it. I mean, I try to stay really close to what really close, like exact on what they're saying. So, but it's really fun. I love meeting all these people, and I love talking to Robin this week. It was just amazing talking to her, and I really, like I said, I want to have her on the show and let you guys hear all of her story. I mean, it's just crazy. It goes on and on. She's got stories for years, so it's amazing. You guys have a great day. Have a blessed day, and I will be talking to you soon. Take care.